This is DDL 137.
I hear
Good evening, Lance.
Evening, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Second week in a row.
I know, it's almost like a record or something.
No, that would be a broken record were you to say that, because I've been listening all weekend to our back catalogue. And do you know what we keep saying? This has got to be some sort of a record. This has got to be some sort of this has got to be, 3 shows in a row. This has got to be some sort of...
Do you know, I've listened to a couple of them myself that you've been uploading, right from sort of DDL number 1, and God, were we bad.
The quality was a bit off on some of them.
I think our presenting skills were a bit off as well.
I'm not going to cast judgment on those yet until we've listened to some of the more modern. I think we messed around with different methods of editing and cutting the show together, which it was obvious which ones didn't work. Talking of cutting and editing things together, photography, I have been desperately trying to take some decent photographs. I have a wonderful camera, and the annoying thing about this camera is I never have it with me when I see something that's worth taking a picture.
So what camera do you have?
I have a Canon D700.
Ooh.
And I love it. It's an awesome camera. But I've not taken the time to sit down and properly use it. Whenever I take the camera out somewhere, it's because I've got an idea of something I want to take pictures of, and that's too late. I need to take pictures of the sofa and the bottom of the garden and things, and learn more about how to take photographs.
They always say the best photograph you take is the one that you take at the time. Sort of. No, that's not the right phrase.
No, the best camera you have is the one that you have with you.
That's the one. That's the one. And if you don't have one with you, then it's not going to happen, is it?
Whereas nowadays, of course, we all have one with us pretty much all the time. And the question becomes, what's the battery like on it, rather than...
Yeah. So you posted a photo today on your Facebook page.
I did, yes.
And I really it's a great photo. It is a great photo.
Thank you.
I've got a question about it though, given you've just said that you don't know essentially you don't know what you're doing with the camera. So did you just have that on automatic settings, just point and shoot?
Sort of. What I've found with modern technology and modern cameras, and especially on phones more than anything else, HDR.
That was my question. I was going to because
I know we've spoken about this we've spoken about it in previous podcasts. And I think that the feature on mobile phones means it's so accessible. I very rarely use a flash because there's so much that can go wrong with them. And I do find that HDR gives you what you see through the viewfinder,
which is the idea.
Yeah. And yeah, that particular picture with the fog and the sun, trying to take a picture into the sun with the regular settings on a camera, and that fog would have just been white.
Yes,
it wouldn't have worked. Whereas with this, you can still see the grass, you can still see the foreground, and yet the sun is coming through the trees. There's another picture that sort of goes with that one that I took. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you've got a device that can show you the picture as well, because otherwise this little bit is going to be difficult to explain. But just to the right of the gate, there's like a little thing up against the fence. And I take another picture stood over there where the sun is between the trees and the building. And it changes the picture entirely, because the sun is now quite obviously a big round thing in the sky, which it's not quite clear. It can't be the sun because it's not bright enough, but it's too bright to be the moon. But but I think that using the sun to backlight those trees
Works
worked a lot
really,
better.
really well. Yes, it does. Yeah,
Worked a lot better.
yeah. I looked at it today, and I thought, how did you take that? And it looked like an HDR. Now I've used the HDR option on my camera on my phone, and I never get a particularly good result from it. It sort of comes across to me as, in terms of phone cameras, it comes across as more of a gimmick than an actual useful tool. Whether I'm not using it right, I don't know, but certainly with the phone cameras, I don't get a good result. However, I do with my, I've got a digital SLR as well, but it's quite a few years older than yours. Also a Canon.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an HDR facility itself. However, you can bracket shoot it, which means it shoot 3 shots, one underexposed, one overexposed, and one correctly exposed. I can then import them into Photoshop, and it will work the HDR out itself.
Yep.
And I get some pretty good results with that, but I don't seem to get it with the phone camera, which made me wonder what camera you were using.
Yeah, no, this is a phone camera. I've done, and it always seems to be. This was a phone camera, yes.
That wasn't done with your.
That was not done with a Canon.
Wow.
And I've had 3 or 4 now missed like pictures like this.
Mm-hmm.
I've got. I'll link these in the show notes. I've got one from Chertsey, where I work over in Chertsey sometimes, and it's literally a case of you're walking across a car park, you're going to lunch or whatever, and you just see, I've got to have that photograph, and because you got your phone in your pocket, pull it out, bam, you got it. I put a comment on this when I posted it on Facebook this morning. I had to stop. I'd driven past this particular view so many times and thought to myself, I'd like to come up here one Saturday morning, and wait for it to come. And it's like, no, it's never going to happen. I'm going to turn up there on a Saturday morning, and there'll be people working in that courtyard, or it'll be a blazing hot sunny day with no mist in the sky, or it'll be pouring rain, and I'll just never do it. So pulled over into the car park, the rugby club opposite, and then crossed over the road and took the picture. What I forgot, and what I may have to do sometime later in the week if the circumstances allow, I want to have my 360 camera, because that picture as it is, it looks like you're in the middle of the countryside. You're half expecting sort of a bunch of zombies to come out of the out of the shed, and the dueling banjos, and that really gives the impression of being in the middle of nowhere.
It absolutely does, yeah.
Not the fact that I'm stood on the side of an A road with lorries and things buzzing right behind me. It's a rare. I know we spoke about this, that the whole Bear Grylls thing, where he always looks like he's in the middle of nowhere, and yet he's got a lorry behind him with all his photography, and then his
and a main road 50 feet down the off camera sort of thing.
That's exactly what this is. It's photography lying to you, because yes, it looks very serene and very quiet, but it was tricky to stay still enough with the low light situation with the lorries going past behind me. And I think that's one of the nice things about using the 360 camera, is I could take that same picture with the 360, and then you spin round and go, oh blimey, I drive past that all the time and don't recognize that particular spot.
So how up to date are you on Doctor Who? Do you still watch it?
Absolutely. And again, harking back to other podcasts, listening to Dumb Down Life 15 this evening.
Right.
And it was talking about the new Doctor.
And who would that have been? Would it have been?
I think it was talking about
Smith.
Matt Smith.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had just the one Doctor since then, haven't we? Or is it technically 2?
Oh, what were we talking about? The War Doctor?
Yes, was that because Matt Smith was in the 50th anniversary, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
So there was the War Doctor, but then he was the Doctor before Matt Smith because he was the one before. Yeah, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey
stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, looks like Mr. Capaldi stepping down at the end of this year.
He is, yes. He announced it on Joe Wiley's show on Radio 2 the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of slipped it into the conversation because, of course, this is going to be my last. This is going to be my last series. It's like, did you just break that on my show?
You see, I posted on Twitter. I wonder if there's any correlation between when the current companion leaves and when the current Doctor leaves, because didn't Matt Smith leave the season after Amy Pond and Rory finished, because Jenna Louise Coleman came in, didn't she? Did a season with him. Then didn't Matt Smith leave? I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
And now Jenna Coleman's left, and there's going to be this season, and now Peter Capaldi's leaving. I'm wondering if there's a sort of correlation there, that when the companion decides it's time to move on, that the Doctor, the guy playing the Doctor, feels that they're not, the new companion isn't their companion, and they decide it's time for them to go as well.
Well, Capaldi was saying that this is the longest job he's had.
But then he was an absolute diehard. I mean, they made a big fuss about the fact that he wrote a letter into the Doctor Who magazine when he was 13 and stuff. And, he's an absolutely huge Doctor Who fan. So, yeah, it might be the longest job he's ever had. But you'd have thought, I would have thought he'd be in the role for a long, long time, because it came across to me when he took it as it wasn't just a job to him.
Maybe it's having your dream. Exactly. Yeah, it's a case of having your dream come true.
Never meet your idols. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not enjoying Doctor Who anymore because I'm working it.
I am Doctor Who. Yeah, it could be. So obviously the bookies and all the papers are speculating on who could be the next Doctor.
Yes.
And have you seen the list?
I haven't seen the list, but there was one I saw today, and unfortunately, I'm sure he's a fantastic actor, but I only know him from the Bisto adverts. He was one who was in a role and has just left that role at about the same time.
That will be Chris Marshall.
Yes.
Yes. So you don't know him from My Family?
My Family is also, that's the other one. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. No, again, I just did a little bit of research before we started recording, and I'd posted as soon as I heard about that he'd just left the show that he's on, Death in Paradise.
Yeah.
It was a couple of days after Capaldi announced he was stepping down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And obviously I'd made a mental note of that to talk about here. So that was fresh in my mind. And I saw him stepping down. I think, do you know what? He'd make a great Doctor Who. And I actually put that up on Twitter. But it seems I'm not the only person that thinks that.
Not the only person who thinks that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the fact that he's out of a job and wants to come home and spend more time with his family and that, it's like, come on, give the man the job. He'd be great.
Well, he's got a year to be with his family and get fed up with them and like, I want to be Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think he'd be an absolutely fantastic Doctor. He's got just the right amount of quirkiness, but he can also pull off serious as well. So I think he'd be fantastic.
I would like to see it go to either a non-white male, as in...
Or a non-male.
Or a non-male, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so there's
they did that with the Master.
Yeah, I mean, this is again, they've made a precedent. People are saying, "Oh, could it happen? Could it happen?" Well, they've proved that it could happen because they made Missy.
Missy, yeah,
she's fantastic. But in the running at the moment is Ben Whishaw, who's Q in the new Bond movies, the nerdy guy Q.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. An old acting pal of yours, in fact, Richard Ayoade.
Can't see it.
Neither can I.
He's into writing and directing and all sorts of other things. I can't see that happening.
But yeah, I mean, he's non-white. So...
I was talking to him the other day, and he said, "No, it's
Sure." Rory Kinnear, who I really have absolutely no idea who that man is. Apparently, he's been in a Bond film, but don't know who he is. Rupert Grint, could we have? I mean, you say about having a non-white or a non-male. Could we have a ginger? You do know who Rupert Grint is, right?
Oh, of course, I know who Rupert Grint is.
That's okay.
He was in that spy thing, Trousers. What was it? Lost Trousers or something, wasn't it? What was that spy thing?
I've absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, he was in some kids spy film.
Was he? The only thing I've known he's done outside of Harry Potter was some chip shop film. He had a chip van and he ended up keeping the van.
He was in Harry Potter. Yes, Rupert Grint. Yes, I know who else do we have on the list?
David Harwood, which you probably don't know.
I know the name, but
have you watched the Supergirl TV series?
Nope.
No. He was in something else as well. Homeland. That was it. He was in Homeland. He currently plays the Martian Manhunter in Supergirl.
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have unfortunately seen one episode of that because it was the handover or the start of a story arc that involves Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, right, Arrow, and the Flash.
Yeah,
and we watched the entire episode just to see the last line be the tie-in to the other three programs. So we had no idea what was going on.
I take you're not keen on Supergirl. I think it's one of the. I really like it actually.
I'll give it another go, but the first episode we watched, we weren't that keen on it, and the same with Legends of Tomorrow. It's a bit.
Don't like that. Don't like that one.
Didn't work.
And then last on the list is Olivia Colman.
I should know Olivia Colman, shouldn't
I? She's in. Is it Broadchurch?
Yeah, maybe I don't then.
And she was in a sitcom. I want to say Gavin and Stacey, but I don't think it was.
Green Wing.
Right.
She was in Green Wing. She was also in this is going to be one of those ums and ahs shows. The Night Manager.
Yes, that was it. Yes.
As well. Yes.
Yes. So she's down as the sole female. So there's a couple of black actors in there.
Wouldn't surprise me if she's been in Doctor Who as well, you know.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
She's one of those sort of big enough names that does bit parts sort of character.
Well, yeah. And Capaldi was in Doctor Who before he became Doctor Who, wasn't he?
Twice, I believe.
He was in the Pompeii one.
Pompeii was certainly one, I believe, but I think he was in another one as well. But I can't remember. I don't have the details to hand. I suspect that, like Peter Capaldi, I suspect that the next Doctor will be a complete who.
That wasn't
was not intended.
I knew who Peter Capaldi was.
No. I mean, sorry, but he wasn't in any of the bookies.
He wasn't a big name. Yeah.
Was he any of the choices?
I don't think he was in the running or anything. No,
exactly. And I suspect that'll be the same with this one. I think we'll get a completely out of the blue, non-bookie chosen name. So we're now into February, only just, and we are past the so-called hump of where people are supposed to have given up their New Year's resolutions.
Did you make any?
No, never do. I didn't make any New Year's resolutions. I think I kind of make little changes throughout the year, just as and when it suits me, rather than waiting and setting a goal on January the 1st, which generally you've broken by January the 2nd. Now, you, sir,
Yes,
I know you didn't make it as a New Year's resolution, but you did mention to me early in January that you were doing Couch to 5K.
I am.
You are. How's it going?
Haven't done any in the last week.
And
However, there are reasons for that. That I've been incredibly busy because I stupidly agreed to start doing a podcast again, and also, despite having, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I've stepped away from my scouting a bit. I've been on a camp, helped out at Beavers. I'm going to Laser Maze with the Cubs tomorrow night. Yeah, believe it or not, this is still having stepped away from it. Because those things have all sort of kicked off a bit now. The Christmas holidays and the kids are all back at school. That all starts back up again. I have struggled the last week and a half to actually find the time to get on the treadmill.
now you'll have to help me out because I've not. I've seen the term Couch to 5K over the years, and I understand that it means from being somebody who is sedentary to somebody who can happily run a 5K.
Correct.
But what's the
process?
Yeah.
I've got an app. Like many things, there's an app for that.
There's an app for that, yeah.
Yes, and it's you run it on your phone whilst you're ideally running outside, but I'm too fat and embarrassed to go running outside, so I've got a treadmill in my house, and essentially you run this app, and as you go through each stage, it's an 8-week course, and you run 3 times a week, and each time you run, it slightly increases the amount of time you're running.
Right.
So the very first run that you do a 5-minute walk to warm up. That's standard across whatever run you're doing because it's just good practice. You'll then run for a minute and then walk for a minute and a half and just repeat on a cycle until you've done. And you end up running for about 8 minutes over a half-hour period. And there's voice prompts and a visual prompt on the screen that shows you when your run segment is coming up and when your walk segment is coming up, and there's audio cues as well, like you'll start running in 10 seconds and then 10 seconds later okay start your third run now, and then once you've finished, you sort of give it a day, and then come back and do more. And the first week it's identical, all 3 runs are the same. The second week, it's the same, but you run for a minute and a half and walk for 2 minutes. So you're running slightly longer. I think it actually works out on that one that you run for 9 minutes rather than 8, but you're running for a more sustained period each time. So you're gradually building up your stamina until you get to the end where you're running for half an hour.
Okay.
And the 5K bit is a little bit of a misnomer because that obviously depends on the pace at which you're running.
Yeah.
But it does mean that you can consistently run for half an hour. Then the idea would be is to gradually increase the speed at which you're running until you do hit that 5K mark. Now, I personally think 5K in half an hour is quite a big challenge, especially for my small, short legs.
Yeah.
Because you'd be running at 10K an hour. That's a fairly brisk pace for somebody of my build. Somebody of your build, probably not so much because your stride length's a lot longer.
Yeah. I currently sort of every other day I'm just walking the dog, and I take him. It's just over a mile, but my walking pace is possibly quite fast.
I know, having been on walks with you, yes, you walk a damn sight faster than I do.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether. See, I did enjoy running on the treadmill at the gym, but I don't know whether running is a thing that I want to do or not. But you're doing this for stamina, for weight control, for
kind of everything really. Just before Christmas, I got round to, despite having lived back in Earthenborough for a year, I finally got around to registering with my health centre. With doctor surgery, and as part of your registering process, they pull you in for initial consultation. Yeah, a little bit of a health check. And apparently I should be dead. So yeah, I'm technically morbidly obese, which I already knew. I'm about 50% over what my ideal weight should be.
Yeah.
So I need to lose sort of a third of me.
Yeah.
My blood pressure is sky high, and I'm a high risk for diabetes. They want me to go for a full set of blood tests because they want to check my cholesterol. So I've kind of accepted the fact that I really need to do something about my personal health. So, and the treadmill's a good thing to do. I can't go outside and exercise. I don't feel comfortable doing it. However, I have an exercise bike and I also have a treadmill, and I swap over and alternate using either of those. And the cool thing about having it in your house and having a tablet is the fact that I can watch Supergirl and Arrow and while I'm running. I just sit the iPad over the console of the treadmill, listen to what the bloke is telling me to do on my running app, and sit there watching telly. It's great.
Yeah. So I've got this full set of dumbbells that I got for Christmas 2015.
Yep.
The only time I've ever used them is when I've lifted them up to move them somewhere else and put them down again.
Move them out the way, yeah. You see, I've got a set as well. And I use those, but they're not great for weight loss.
No.
Initially, in that, obviously, if you're building muscle is heavier than fat, therefore you're actually gaining weight. However, when you've got a certain level of muscle on you, muscle is quite an expensive resource in terms of energy just to maintain where they are. So if you do pack on a load of muscle, your calorific requirement for the day goes up. So if you maintain your diet as it is and put on more muscle, then you should start to lose weight or at least lose fat. So it's a combination of all three, really. It's of sort of cardio exercise for stamina and calorific burn, and the dumbbells and body weight exercises to tone you up. Yeah.
So you say the app gives it as a 8-week course? Did you say?
Yes.
But is it a case of you miss a week and start again, or? If you miss a week,
I don't intend to. I should just pick up where I left off,
right?
Because I'm at such a low level with it that I don't think. Obviously, if you were running for half an hour every 3 days a week and then stop for 3 weeks, your stamina levels are going to drop. So you may not be able to actually do that. But I think I'm at such a low level at the moment that stopping for a week and a half isn't going to impact me that much, and I could just get back on and do it if I could find the time, which possibly this week is going to be Wednesday. I'm hopefully going to get back on it by then.
Okay, well, good luck with doing that, and I will be checking up on you.
I could do one of those before and after photos. No, I'm not going to do one of the before and after photos.
Well, you kind of did with the 10-year comparison thing, because when we started talking about doing this again, we said, well, okay, well, let's have a look at photographs of what we were like 10 years ago, and you've not really changed.
When did I do that? I can't remember. Oh yeah, you put it on Facebook, didn't you?
Because there was a picture of you from when you were out in the States, which you said was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I'll see if I can find that and put it up, because I can't remember what I look like. Actually, I can't remember the post. So I think I've changed quite a lot.
Yeah,
or at least I thought I had.
Well, I think the only change that I could see was that you'd taken your hat off.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for another show. So thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so in the comment section below this video or on our Facebook page. And hopefully we'll speak to you all next week. Bye.
Ta-ra.